Hello? Are you crazy? Are you stupid? Or are you just in love? Welcome back to Season 2 of the Reaction Shot Podcast. That's a line. Me sitting over there for the past 2 hours, not being able to take my ears off of your show, is fact. I mean, there's lots of beautiful podcasts in this app. Your friend's favorite show included. Hi. But I can't take my ears off of yours. That's a fact. It's not a line. I find you very listenable. I'm so happy to be here in this new season with you, the listeners. So much has changed since Season 1, and I couldn't be happier. One of the biggest things to make note of is I'm now officially a part of the You Run Podcast Network, a network jam-packed with some amazing creators with a wide range of podcast topics. So, hop on over to the You Run Podcast webpage. That's yourunpodcast.com, and check out all the other amazing talents featured. But there is one in particular that I'd like to point out, and that's the Paranormal Misfits podcast, a show where the unexplained meets the unthinkable. This podcast that dares to explore the dark corners of reality, a place where mystery unfolds, conspiracies are revealed, and the supernatural beckons. Join the host, Chrissy and Nino, as they delve into the realms of horror, paranormal phenomenons, cults, secret societies, and the darkest parts of history. Truth is stranger than fiction here. This show is a portal to the mysterious and darkness of both the known and the unknown. Horror is just another day at the office with these two. So please, check out the Paranormal Misfits podcast, part of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find them wherever you listen to your podcast or at yourunpodcast.com. That's yourunpodcast.com. So, now, let's get into Season 2, Episode 4 of the Reaction Shot Podcast with a POV on crazy, stupid love. Also, let me leave you with this from the movie. The skin under your eyes is starting to look like Hugh Hefner's ballsack. Hi everyone, I'm Dave and I love movies. So, welcome to my podcast, The Reaction Shot. In each episode, I'll dive deep into a movie of any genre that holds a special place in my heart. But here's the twist. I bring on a guest who has never seen that movie before, until now. We discuss, dissect, and review from pre to post-production to behind-the-scenes stories and well into its impact on pop culture. Will we agree on everything, or will we have wildly different views? Thanks for hitting play. Let's roll tape and find out. Fade in. So, what exactly is Crazy Stupid Love about? Well, let me tell you. Cal Weaver is a middle-aged man whose wife, Emily, asks for a divorce after she reveals that she had an affair with a coworker named David Lindenhagen. After moving into his own apartment, Cal begins frequenting an upscale bar, talking loudly about his divorce, until he attracts the attention of a young man named Jacob Palmer. Jacob, a womanizer, who takes home different women each night, was recently rejected by a woman named Hannah. Jacob takes pity on Cal and offers to teach him how to pick up women. After a few awkward attempts to talk to women, Cal seduces a woman named Kate at the bar. The experience gives Cal the confidence to approach other women, and Cal begins to successfully emulate Jacob's example. Eventually, Cal and Emily will reunite at their 13-year-old son Robbie's parent-teacher conference, where Emily is impressed by Cal's newfound confidence and his fitted clothes. Their reunion goes well until Robbie's teacher is revealed as Kate, who shares with Emily that she and Cal had sex. Cal inadvertently confesses to having sex with 9 other women since their separation, and Emily leaves in disgust. Meanwhile, when Hannah, a recent law school graduate, is offended by not being proposed to by her boyfriend, returns to the bar where she originally rejected Jacob's advances and kisses Jacob passionately. Cal and Emily's son Robbie makes numerous grand gestures to try to win the heart of Jessica Riley, his 17-year-old babysitter who has a crush on Cal. At the advice of a classmate, Riley takes nude photos of herself, intending to send them to Cal. Emily calls Cal under the guise of needing help with the house's pilot light, but Cal sees through the ruse. Realizing that she called just because she missed him, Cal decides to win her back. Jacob returns Cal's calls and asks for advice about being in a real relationship and meeting his girlfriend's parents. Jessica's mother discovers the naked photos, and Jessica's father, Bernie, rushes to the Weaver residence to confront him about those photos, with Jessica in pursuit. Cal and his kids will create a makeshift mini golf set in their backyard to remind Emily of their very first date together. During that gathering, Jacob and Hannah show up at the house, and Hannah is revealed to be Cal and Emily's first daughter that they had right out of high school. Cal is appalled by Jacob and the fact that he is dating his daughter and forbids her from seeing him. Bernie shows up and attacks Cal over the pictures. Jessica arrives and tells her father that Cal knew nothing about those pictures at all. David arrives on the scene to return Emily's sweater from a previous date. When Jacob identifies him, he punches David in the face for the pain which he caused Cal. Cal, Jacob, David, and Bernie get into a scuffle, which is soon broken up by the police. Cal starts spending time at the bar again and receives a visit from Jacob, who confesses that he is in love, and he is again to reevaluate his life as a result. Cal replies that he is happy that Jacob is a changed man, but does not approve of Jacob and Hannah's relationship, having seen Jacob's former lifestyle. Jacob resigns without harboring any ill feelings. Rather, he expresses his respect for Cal and praises him for being a really great father. At Robbie's 8th grade graduation, Robbie gives a pessimistic speech about how he no longer believes in true love and soulmates. Cal stops him and instead begins to recount his courtship with Emily to the audience, saying that while he does not know if things will work out between the two of them, he will never give up on Emily. With renewed faith, Robbie reaffirms his love for Jessica to the audience's applause. After the ceremony, Cal gives Jacob and Hannah his blessing. Jessica gives Robbie an envelope containing the nude photos of herself that were originally intended for Cal to get him through high school. Cal and Emily have a laugh talking about the events that have transpired the past year and watching them from afar. Robbie smiles optimistically. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Reaction Shot Podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and joining me today is somebody I've never had on the show before, so that's always super exciting. Joining me today is Adam Galloway from Raised on Film podcast. Adam, how are you today?
Good, Dave. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, no, I'm glad that we were able to connect, and I liked the setup of your show, so this was good.
Yeah, thank you. I love that, we've kind of been in touch a little bit, listening to each other's shows. Obviously, I love what you've got going on your side, and you kind of presented a little idea to me to possibly introduce me to a movie that I've never seen before. So you gave me a nice little list, like I give my guest, and I ended up choosing our movie that we're going to focus on today, which is Crazy Stupid Love.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adam, tell us a little bit about your podcast, Raised on Film. What can people expect if they tuned into your show?
Yeah, so just a quick brief history. So during COVID, I started a podcast with some of my buddies that I went to film school with. And
Nice.
then after that kind of, petered off a little bit, less interest from some of the other members of that. I wanted to keep going because I just liked the avenue of staying in connection with some of my friends, and that's how it kind of started, because I went to film school twice, so I got a bunch of friends that are all film nerds like me and love talking about it. It's basically stuff we talk about when we're together. Now we just record it and send it out there. But that's how it started. And then once I got on Instagram and started connecting with some people, I branched out a little bit. I've been on some shows. I've had some people on my show. So it's just fun to talk about stuff and finding different ways of talking about stuff. Like you can do solo movies like we're about to do. You can do filmographies. You can do directors. You can do actors, actresses, whatever. I just did an Oscars episode. It's just fun to chat. Again, the number one reason now that I'm in my 30s, it's just fun to stay connected. I've never been this close with my friends, and then this like obviously I was very close to them when we were in film school together, but and then I'm getting some of their wives and some random people that like one of my one of my wife's friends that's now one of my good friends. I had her on the show, so it's just awesome. And I again, it's stuff we talk about anyway.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's the great thing about the podcast community. I like what you said that, these are basic conversations that you have
Yeah.
day in and day out with your friends. So why not put a microphone in front of it and let other
Mm.
people join in on that conversation? I think that's pretty awesome. And I love your title, Raised on Film, because let's face it, us film nerds are definitely raised
Mm.
on film. So
I
um,
was I remember on Netflix the little I think of it like it's a little docu series or whatever you want to call it, the movies that made us.
mhm,
And I love that title too, and I could have just ripped that off, but I wanted to come up with something on my own. But I just love the idea of that, where like everyone, even if you're not a huge film, like my wife, for example, like she's not a huge into movies. She's more into them now that she's with me, but like she was raised on movies. Everyone was
mhm,
raised on, like she's got her favorites. She's got
yeah,
nostalgia. Her parents, my parents, everyone was raised on something. And even if it's not movies, it's music, it's something. So it's just a good way to connect everyone with stuff, because there's a lot of the popular movies that everyone saw. And then there's the ones that were kind of obscure that you kind of, you know, I don't want to say gatekeeper, but like just it's fun to introduce people to movies they haven't seen. I love introducing people like we're going to talk about today. And then I like vice versa as well. And that's why I'd like to come back on your show with something that you recommended me that I've never seen, because it's fun. Even if you don't like the movie, it's
yeah.
just fun to share and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what's great about art in general, specifically film, when it comes to
Mm,
our podcast, is that they're obviously art is subjective. So, something that I find great humor in or I'm scared of or whatever the situation might be, I think those conversations are always fun. And I think it is fun to have conversations with people who have seen the movie. We can sit and talk in depth with a movie that both of us have seen 25 million times. And then, the format with my show is kind of introducing somebody that just randomly saw it for
yeah.
the first time. So
Mm,
that conversation is always fun. And,
mm.
the movies that I notice I love from, the early 90s, I rewatch now and I'm like, oh, I love this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then you got to kind of like sell yourself a little bit, like, why did I recommend this movie to you? But
So I want to quickly ask: is this the first time on your show that you flipped it? That you're taking a recommendation from your guest?
it is.
Oh
So
wow!
yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah, you get the honor.
yeah.
I will say my one friend Grace, episode 10, she wanted to do the Mean Girls musical movie because
Okay.
she loves musicals. I knew nothing about the musical. Obviously, I knew the original Mean Girls movie.
Yeah.
So that was we kind of went back and forth about the film and musical. We were kind of like teaching each other about them. But yeah,
Mhm.
ultimately, this is the first time that I'm doing a movie that I literally have now only seen twice.
Oh
So
wow! All right,
yeah,
I'm honored.
yeah. So congratulations,
Yeah.
welcome to this awesome episode. All right, so getting into it, Adam, our movie today that I picked from your list is Crazy Stupid Love. It is a 2011 romantic comedy drama. It is written by Dan Fogelman. It is directed by Glenn Ficarra and John Requa. It opened on July 29th, 2011. It had an estimated budget of $50 million. Dollars. Its opening weekend, it earned $19.1 million, dollars, with a total domestic box office run ending at $84.4 million, dollars, and a worldwide box office coming to the total of $145.1 million. Dollars. So pretty successful, honestly. I mean,
Hmm.
I feel like the $50 million budget, it had to be a lot of that coming from the star power that they had in this film,
Oh
for sure.
God, yeah.
Yeah. I was, familiar with this movie, but I feel like every time I would think about the movie, I would only think about like, like two or three of the stars. And once I started watching
Mhm.
the movie, I'm like, damn, okay, okay. Oh, yeah, there's another one. Oh, yeah, I know that face. I think it's kind of a pretty cool who's who there. So let me ask you, what is your history with Crazy Stupid Love?
Interesting. So, my buddy Barrett introduced this to me when it came out. It was right when I was in film school, and I watched it with him, and he loved it. I liked it the first time. It's an example for me of a movie that just kind of grows.
Mhm.
Now, it holds new value to me because at the time I never had seen The Office,
Okay.
and I have now. I've watched The Office a few times now, and I consider myself a big fan. And interestingly enough, for this, so this was released a few months after, spoiler alert, when Michael Scott left The Office
Mm,
after season 7. So
okay.
this was, I think, his first big movie after, because again, he had some hits and stuff. That's part of the reason why he left. Like, obviously, he wanted to keep doing movies. But I've done an episode on Steve Carell, and I think just Steve Carell alone in this, I mean, it just perfectly is a good avenue for Steve Carell and his talents of the character he's playing. He
Yeah.
plays a lot of characters like this. Dan in Real Life is another
Mm,
example. And then if you jump over to Ryan Gosling, he kind of disappeared there for a few years. I think it was 3 years, and then he came back with all these hits. He came back with Blue Valentine. I don't know the order, but Blue Valentine, that one with Kristen Dunst, where he plays the serial killer. All good things.
good things. Yeah.
Drive, The Ides of March, this, um, Place Beyond the Pines, like Gangster Squad. I think like he just came back with all these big movies. Some were better
Yeah.
than others, obviously, but this was one of them. And he totally transformed himself into
Yeah.
like again he was cute before like The Notebook. Everyone knew him, but he
Sure.
just like jacked, handsome, like oh my god, like just and then the character he's playing, a womanizer. It's like
Yeah.
oh my god, like so we're reintroduced to Ryan Gosling. Then you
Yeah.
have Julianne Moore, who's been around for a while, Emma Stone, who just done Superbad and I think Easy A. So
Mm,
you had a mix of people in their prime, and then like Ryan Gosling, who blew up, and then Emma Stone, who's on the rise and eventually won some Oscars. You got Kevin Bacon in this movie. You got Marissa Tomei. So you got Oscar winners, you got Oscar nominees, and then you got Dan Fogelman, who wrote it, who eventually went on to do This Is Us, which was a
mm,
very popular TV show and
yeah.
similar connecting storylines, and you can see the similarities in it. So to wrap up my answer, my history of this movie is it's just grown up my like ranking of favorite movies. I love it. It's just on so many levels. Ryan Gosling's one of my favorite actors. I love Steve Carell now more than I did then,
Mm,
but I just think it's a wonderfully fun movie that is tackling lots of different things and feels real.
mm,
And your main central love story in this is actually a marriage that's falling apart. And
yeah.
then you have that balance with this new young love. And then my favorite element to the movie is that you have two men who are on different ends of the spectrum and have to meet in the middle to become better men.
Yeah.
But they push themselves. Steve Carell is very, he's given up. He's not trying. He has no confidence. Then you have Ryan Gosling, who has way too much confidence and is a womanizer, like I said before, and just sleeping around. And they both meet in the middle. And you have great speeches throughout the movie. Ryan Gosling ultimately admits that he thought he was teaching him, but he needed to be taught as well. It's just, and then he becomes his father-in-law, sort of.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just clever. I went on a little bit of a rant there, but
Oh,
that's basically my history with the movie. Is I've just loved every time I watch it. I love it more. My wife loves it. I recommended it to a few people, and it's just again, it wasn't a huge hit when it came out, but it's just how many times do you get this great of a cast together in a movie that's pretty well written
yeah.
and fun and sad and yeah, like it's got so many iconic scenes in it.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. I never apologize about going on rants because
Sorry.
I know I literally I go on tangents all the time. I find one little small subject and I'm just like go off
Yeah.
into left
Mhm.
field or so I remember when the movie came out, I thought the movie looked really good. Seeing the cast, see a cast like that, you're definitely intrigued
Yeah.
regardless. The movie itself was definitely something that I was interested in. I do like character studies. It was a romantic comedy, which isn't usually my number one go-to, but I always, every time I watch a romantic comedy, I mean, you have to love it. It's usually always a feel-good type thing. So I don't know what kept me away from watching this movie because I feel like I was always intrigued by it. So when this conversation came up, I'm like, man, this is the opportunity to actually watch this movie.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to watch it one time, maybe like 10 years ago. And I remember maybe getting like 15 or 20 minutes into it. And I don't know why I wasn't vibing with it. So I turned it off and I just
Yeah.
never revisited it. So, yeah, watching it this time. So I've watched it twice since we decided we're going to do this. And I really, really liked it.
Hmm.
Like you said, there's a lot to take from it. And I actually feel like, reading some online views, I always like to hear what other people have to say about movies
Yeah.
and like what did they love about it or not. And a lot of the things I see is some people say it's too long, there's too many storylines going on. And the funny thing is I actually feel like I would have been okay if it was a longer movie. The original cut of the film was actually 3 hours long.
Oh, wow.
So do I want to sit there for a 3 hour long romantic comedy? Maybe not, but
Hmm.
I do feel like I kind of wanted a little bit more, and
Hmm.
that's not to say that it didn't give us a lot and that there was like plot holes or you felt like nothing happened. I think I was really into the characters, and I feel like some of the storylines could have gave us a little bit more, and I still
Of
would have been
course.
just as intrigued. So with that being said, I actually feel like this could have worked as like a mini series or a very short run TV show. When I say TV show, I mean I'm talking like
Yeah.
HBO or Hulu,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. So, I guess that's a good thing. That makes me I really liked it. So, with that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your reaction to Crazy Stupid Love? Where does it fall? 10 being favorite movie of all time, one being absolutely would never watch this again.
So it would probably, it is in my top 10 of all time.
Mhm.
I don't think it's like objectively like, it's just my rankings obviously subjective. It's based on rewatch value, what the movie means to me and all that. It'd probably be 10 or ninth near the bottom or like the high point of the top 10.
Cool.
Um, Out of 10, like I'd be around a 9, 9.5 again. I don't think it's perfect. I think for me, I agree with you, and I don't want it longer. It could be a little longer, but I think anything that you love, that you walk away wanting more, I think that's good. It's a good thing. My
Mhm.
example always is like a Breaking Bad, where it's like I was so sad that show was over. I wanted to keep going, but I'm happy it ended at the right
Sure.
time. It didn't overstay its welcome. And I think Crazy Stupid Love, like 3 hours, oh my God, no, it would
Yeah.
drag. But like I would have been fine with it over 2 hours. I think it's an hour 55.
Mhm.
2 hours, 205, 210, sure, wouldn't have hurt the movie very much. But if you get in the 2.5 hour range, it's gonna. I do think it's well paced. You could probably use a little bit more with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, but they're not your leads. Like
Sure.
it is Steve Carell's story at the end of the day. But again, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone have incredible chemistry. They've gone on to do two other movies together. So I wouldn't have, been hurt if it was more of that. But I also get everything it's interesting for me. I get almost everything I need in the scene with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone when they end up in bed together and they don't have sex, they just
Mhm.
talk.
Yeah.
You get everything you need from Ryan Gosling's character. He talks about his mom, he talks about his dad, and then you get the reason why he's helping Steve Carell because he sees his dad in Steve Carell's character. So, I mean, it does a great job with the scenes that it's given to give you enough. Like I can sit here and talk about each. I can talk about Julianne Moore. I can talk about the Son, Emma Stone. There's enough there for a movie that's basically 2 hours.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I love it. Again, do I think it's a perfect movie? No, but it just it hit because I'm a character guy in these types of movies, and it's just this movie's just spilling with character arcs and development and where they end up. Like you have these two men who obviously go on the biggest journeys of this movie, and they both end up in such a great place. And you look at them at the first time they meet, and the last scene of the movie, it's
Mhm.
like, wow, they're both better. They make mistakes. Like Steve Carell goes on this journey, he makes a bunch of mistakes, but he becomes a better man. And Ryan Gosling becomes a better man as well. They take the best qualities of each other, they mix and match, then they improve, and then they end up in a happier place. And it's got a nice ambiguous ending. You don't know if they're going to get back together. You think they are, but even if they don't, everyone's in a better place.
Yes. Yeah, I think I like that ambiguous ending too. I'm kind of glad they didn't just, put a bow on it and be like, here you go,
Yeah,
here's your
because
perfect ending.
some marriages do, even if they're civil and can be in a room together,
Yeah,
like post divorce, it's okay that if they don't get back together, but you feel like they're going to at least give it another shot. But
sure.
they made the right choice with that ending, and I wouldn't be shocked if they filmed different endings because you said it was like 3 hours. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be shocked if there was another scene back at the house and all that. I just think your story's done.
Mhm.
You're complete. I'm
Yeah.
glad you bought me that ice cream.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks for the
Perfect.
ice cream. Yeah.
Yes, it's perfect.
Cool. No, I couldn't agree more with you. Like you said, I'm definitely a character guy too, and I think that's one of the really great things that worked about this movie is that these characters are pretty well developed, honestly. I think um their growth throughout just the film itself is pretty good, but the acting, the you mentioned the chemistry between Gosling and Stone, and
All the connections, like in the like Julianne Moore and Steve Carell are
yeah.
great. Ryan
Mhm.
Gosling and Steve Carell, Emma Stone and Ryan. They
Mhm.
the father son, like Jonah Bobo or whatever his name is,
Yeah.
the young
Yep.
who played the son. It's they all feel so real and grounded.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's one of the great things that worked for it. And yeah, so I feel like, speaking of our reviews, I always like to, kind of let everyone know what else is going on in the review world. So on Internet Movie Database, we are at a 7.4 out of 10.
Hmm.
For Metacritic, we are a 68 out of 100. And with the audiences, we're at a 7.4 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, we are critically at a 79%, and audience, we're at a 78%.
Pretty
And
solid.
yeah, yeah. And then Letterbox, we get into a 3.7 out of 5.
Okay.
So, I mean, pretty favorable overall. I feel like everyone seemed to maybe put it in like that
Yeah.
75 to 85 percent range there. So, um, I personally, I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Hmm.
I think just like you, maybe a couple more watches over the next, 5 years. I feel like maybe I could, strengthen my viewpoint on some of the storylines or, pick up on certain things. And I mention on my show all the time, I have this 3 movie rule where I feel like you can't fully grasp the concept of every aspect of a film unless you watch it 3 times.
I agree
Uh,
with that. Yeah.
yeah, so you're always watching it visually the first time, audibly the second time, and the third time, all your senses kind of come together and you really wrap your head around every piece of it. So, uh, yeah, I'm excited to give this movie another go a time or two down the road.
Hmm. I'm glad
Uh,
you liked it.
yeah, thanks. So for season 2 of the Reaction Shot podcast, I have been asking my guests to grab a couple of ridiculous reviews you find online. Uh, have it be a 1 star or a 5 star. I just like to hear, sometimes reviews for things, not even just movies. Sometimes reviews are so obnoxious. I'm like, that's not even a review.
Hmm.
You're nitpicking and bitching about one tiny little thing, and it makes no sense to me.
Hmm.
So I grabbed a couple, and hopefully you grabbed a couple too. But do you want to go ahead and share one of the reviews you found online? You found a little
Yeah,
ridiculous.
so I stuck with poor because I've had a feeling we'd be talking pretty positively about the
Yep.
movie. And I couldn't find anything crazy like out of the I just found stuff I disagree with
Hmm.
pretty much. But like one of the quotes I got here is there's strong, fleetingly powerful stuff in Crazy Stupid Love, but like its awkwardly punctuated title, the movie jerks to a halt just when it's beginning to flow. And I'm like, okay, well, that's
Hmm.
fair. I get it, but I kind of like the title because it's wonky and weird. I know Steve Carell wasn't a fan of it,
Yeah.
but again, it makes it unique, and that's what this movie is. It's not your typical romantic comedy. The movie squanders its potential with a sloppy script chock full of false notes. Even the I didn't know how to pronounce this word. Bumptious score introduces often bumping into important dialogue. And I'm thinking about the movie. I'm like, this isn't the Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
There wasn't one scene where I couldn't,
No.
Tenet, Christopher Nolan's Tenet,
Yeah.
where
Oh
it's like
God.
you literally can't hear what they're saying.
Nolan's
I
like
don't,
known for that. Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember one scene that I couldn't understand anyone.
Me
Um,
either.
Throwing every style of comedy and romantic complication at the wall to see what sticks, the filmmakers find out too late that almost none of it does. And I'm like, okay, sure, there's
No.
probably some things that fall flat, but I'm like, there are when just the idea of Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell as wingmen going up
Mhm.
to flirt with girls, I mean, that alone is incredible. And then one of my favorite moments is when Ryan Gosling goes with the one girl and they high five, and then
Mhm.
Steve Carell just no game at all. I'm Cal.
Yeah.
It's
So yeah.
totally. And now that I've seen The Office, I have a whole other appreciation for this movie and like most stuff with Steve Carell, and he's just Michael Scott. Like
Yeah.
it's in like the most lovely, wonderful way. He doesn't have he doesn't know social cues. He's yeah, and it's just little like, and when his first scene with Marissa Tomei with the
Oh my
drinks,
God.
and
Oh
like,
my God. Yeah.
I'm gonna get you a drink. Like it's so
No,
good.
no game. No game at all.
Yes,
No. Yeah.
so good. Yeah,
So
those are some of
awkward.
the ones I got.
No, awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Those are always so fun. So I found two really bad ones and then one that was actually favorable that I actually enjoyed a lot. So the one it got a half star, not even a whole star, a half. I didn't finish it. It was badly paced, very boring, too much sex for the sake of it. They could have easily been done in an hour if they took out a good chunk of the irrelevant bar shit.
I don't even think there's one actual sex scene in this movie,
That's actually why I picked this because I'm like, there isn't any. They talk about sex
and they're about to have sex,
and they're
yes, but
about
they
to,
don't. Yeah,
and I think everything is even like the visual things that you see. You mentioned Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone not actually partaking in sexual
yeah,
intercourse. It's a very sensual scene,
yeah.
but there's literally no sex. I'm like, what did you watch? Like I don't like was
You
that?
downloaded the wrong movie.
Yeah, that was a crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, poor guy. Another half star that I found. It says horrible.
Oof.
There was not one person in this movie that didn't annoy me. How the hell did anything that Jacob say work on any women? I also barely made it to the halfway mark, but that's it. Half stars because I only laughed one single time.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
I do understand because it Ryan Gosling's character is amplified a little bit. I do think he's got serious game the first time he goes up to Emma Stone and hits on her when he brings in the lawyer jargon. I'm
mm,
like that. This guy's just oozing charisma and like yeah,
right.
like I watch it with my wife and she's like yeah, like he's just hitting every just
Yeah,
like. But and then there are some other scenes where some things he's saying like he doesn't like this whole thing about that's boring. You got to entertain. And like, oh, that's like really ridiculous, but it's a
yeah,
part of his arc. So I do understand that to a slight degree, but at the same time, it's like they're at a bar. A lot of these people are probably looking to hook up. And then if
absolutely.
Ryan Gosling walks up to you, I mean, I would have to think his batting average would be pretty good.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think they're taking the stereotype of this, really
Yes.
attractive man coming up to you, and even those cheesy lines or what maybe some people, if the average Joe Schmo would say the line, he would say,
Yes.
of course, those women would be like, "Get the fuck out of my face." Yeah, it's what you're saying. I mean, Gosling walking up to you, like if they're seeing what we see, like
Yeah.
yeah, they're okay. They got it. They got it, dude.
Yeah.
I think that guy's just jealous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I actually found a really favorable review. I'm just sharing this one because I really like what this guy had to say.
Okay.
He gave it a 5 out of 5. So he said, I'm actually shocked. This is my first log of this. It's one of my comfort movies that I've seen countless times, and it will not be the last. So many things to like about this movie. First of all, the cast is fucking amazing. Undeniable chemistry from Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, and a fucking course Steve Carell plays his role as Cal perfectly. Shout out to Julianne Moore as well and the rest of the cast. For real though, I'm not saying that this is Gosling's best role, but it might just be my favorite. He's so fucking funny from the jump. Yes, sure, he's a douche, but you're lying to yourself if you don't think any of his lines wouldn't work on you. Then we get those later scenes where Jacob's character starts to unravel, specifically the scene where Hannah comes back to his house. Their,
Yes.
sce- their scene in the bedroom together is debatably my favorite scene in the entire film because you fall in love with them right there as they fall in love with one another. That is some beautiful shit. And of course, the big twist scene. Holy shit, it never gets old. It's carried out to perfection in a way that you legit never see coming. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of rom-coms, but this is one of my few exceptions because wow, I truly cannot get enough of it, and I do not care. 10 out of 10.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that guy kind of touched a little bit on some of the things that we've been saying too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like to see that little 5-star rating in there too because you have these crazy people who give half stars for too much sex in a movie that has zero sex. So, yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Good
no,
times.
it's yeah, again, I think it's in some ways underrated. Like again, I know you said the box office and everything before, like it did fine. It wasn't like a flop or anything. But yeah, it's just again, I love when star power crosses with good quality scripts. And I don't really know much about these filmmakers. I don't really know what else they've done. But again, it's not like it's a huge director that did this. But it's just these guys and gals are great actors and actresses because it's just what they are. And when you give them good material, like Ryan Gosling is a great actor and he's charming and he just fits this role so well. And then in the same year he does Drive. So it's like you get a whole mixture of Ryan Gosling, and then you got Emma Stone, who you fall in love with, and you got Steve Carell, who you root for. You
Mhm.
want them to get back together in it, and you understand. And a big thing I like about this movie is no one, other than the one scene when Julianne Moore finds out he slept with 9 girls, there's a little bit of shame. But my point that I was going to say is there's no real shaming in this movie. Even Julianne Moore, who does cheat,
Mhm.
and he doesn't shame her. The movie doesn't shame her, and in the end, Steve Carell takes more onus and changes more than her. I'm sure she, does a lot of soul searching and stuff, and maybe she went to therapy and stuff. We don't see all that, but she's not our protagonist. But I just like the movie that it's just like it feels real. Like I feel like
Mhm.
this happens every day in marriages, and you have so many moments of Steve Carell owning it throughout the movie. Like even the scene before the first twist where Marissa Tomei is revealed. Like that's the thing that sucks about this movie is all these great moments that are almost there of reconciliation. It's defeated by a twist, and then everything goes into shambles again.
Mhm.
But Steve Carell is just he's acknowledging his own flaws. And he's like, I gave up as a husband. And it's what Ryan Gosling says to him early on in the movie. Like, you probably lost touch of who you were, and who you were as a lover. And like, there's a reason why she eventually went out to have an affair. It
Yep.
tackles all the stuff. Like, I don't know if the writer went through a divorce, but it seems like he's pulling from something because it just feels real throughout. And then you have the Ryan Gosling Emma Stone storyline that's a little more rom-commy, and you have the cute scene where he works in this amazingly ridiculous move of playing Dirty Dancing, and it just the scene has a nice payoff, setup payoff where she explains what she thinks is going to happen, and she's like, "It's not going to happen." The PG-13 version of tonight is I get drunk and passed out, and you kiss me on the forehead. Well, that's ultimately what happens, but they flip it the other way around. And Ryan
Yep.
Gosling is he's had all these nights of sex and great hookups, and all he's really wanted was a night of communication and talking. And
Yeah.
he literally asks her to ask me something personal about myself, and then he goes on a wonderfully lovely gives like a monologue about his mom and then eventually
Mhm.
his dad. It's just like it's beautiful
Yeah.
because the scene's just this whole movie's full of inversion. It's just like you're expecting these two to as she says bang,
Mhm.
and they don't even do that. I mean, his
No.
shirt's off and he looks fantastic. And even like that, like you have a genuine moment too, where it's like Ryan Gosling takes his shirt off and she's just like, "Are you serious?" And like, can we turn the lights down? Like, it just feels so real. Where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just beautiful. It's
Yep.
a beautifully made movie.
Yeah. Very well said. I could not agree with you more. It's these characters that just really pull us in those moments, and I think those big honest moments, this movie does a really good job of showing the different types of love and what love is, the intimacy that comes with love. And you hear the word intimacy, you hear the word love, and you have all these ideas of what those things are, what we're told, what we're shown. But there's so many levels and so many layers to those types of things. And I think that's what's great about this movie is because you have all these different types of characters. They're all coming together in all different types of ways. They're all different ages and they're all experiencing these different types of emotions and tapping into the level of intimacy that they didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that they were missing.
Yeah.
And it took this obviously we don't want anyone to cheat on anybody, but it took Julianne Moore's character cheating on Steve Carell's character to kind of realized like, that I did have a good life and I loved what we had going on. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes it sucks that some people have to go to that extreme to, get snapped back to reality and realize what they were missing all along. And can you recover from that?
Yeah, and like the opening shot, literally of the movie, it's literally a metaphor to their relationship. Like
Yeah.
he's given up, he's wearing running shoes, and like doesn't, and you can see it in his face and her face, in the first scene. And then it's just funny too. The movie is way more nuanced than this, but I just find it fascinating that at the end of the day, really, again, there's more to it than this, but clearly Ryan or Steve Carell and Julianne Moore are not having sex, and
Mm.
Ryan Gosling is having all the sex.
All the
It's
sex,
just like
all the sex.
it takes these two people to connect, where it's just
Yep.
like he needs to add more sex to his life, and he
Yep.
needs to reduce the amount of
Yeah.
sex he's having
Yeah.
with the
He needs to
amount of
chill a
women
little.
that he's
Yeah.
having. Yeah, he needs one woman, and Steve Carell needs to have sex with the one woman
Yes.
he's married to. So it's,
Yeah.
again, and obviously there's more to it than that. But like you have all the fun scenes with the two of them, like I said, them being wingmen and stuff, which is great. But then you have these great sentimental scenes with the two of them. Where he's like, "You're never gonna be good enough for my daughter," and I've like, like I'm never gonna give you my blessing. And then he does, and it's just a perfect balance of comedy and drama. Where he's like, "I bought a firearm, and I'm prepared to shoot you in the face with it.
Yeah.
Don't hurt her or whatever." And then he slap, and again, set up payoff, and then he slaps him, and then she's like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun."
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just like the movie's just woven perfectly of nice balance of laughter and like, oh, that's sweet. And then we haven't even talked about the babysitter storyline,
Oh,
which is ridiculous but also kind of fun.
it
And
is.
one of my favorite moments, just subtle moments in the movie, is when the mom finds the nude photos and she
Mhm.
brings them down to the dad and
This is-
doesn't say anything to him, and and he's watching TV, and he just opens them, and it says Cal on the front, and he just flips out, and then you have the scene that leads that after that, where all the men are just fighting and they don't
Yep.
even know what they're really fighting. They're like, Ryan
Yep.
Gosling punches Kevin Bacon, and then Bernie shows up.
Yep.
It's just, yeah,
Yep.
it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It is brilliant. Yeah. So the elephant in the room of this movie, I see it a lot when doing research about this film, is that the babysitter storyline with the kid, Robbie.
Yeah,
Um, there's so much like negativity around that whole storyline.
yeah.
And I, what is your viewpoint on it? Do you find it overly offensive? I mean, in hindsight, when you're looking at the idea of, there's a scene in the movie where the babysitter, who's 17 years old, does take nude photos for Steve Carell's character. It's implied that that's what's happening, and she goes to give those pictures to him. They're like Polaroid pictures, they're
Yeah.
old school cameras like that, and she, puts them in an envelope for him, and she eventually, at the end of the movie, ends up giving those pictures to the 13-year-old boy that she babysits, and jokingly teases with him like, "This will get you through the rest of school."
Yeah.
So I
And to
just
also add in, she walks in on him
yes,
earlier in the movie,
hmm
pleasuring himself. Yes.
yeah,
It is a I'm sure there are lines being crossed in it. I think they do it in a fun enough way where I've never really put too much thought into it.
sure,
But I mean, to me, at the end of the day, regardless of it being controversial or not, if you believe it is, that's totally fine.
yeah,
Um, at the end of the day, I would just say I'm sure there are lots of girls that have taken nude selfies,
mhm,
uh, probably for some older men. Young boys do masturbate. And I think of the three things you mentioned, the most controversial one is her giving nude photos to an underage kid, but she's also technically underage.
sure,
So that's a weird one. And I
yeah,
think it would have been interesting. It is weird that she hands them to him. I do understand, like, it's kind of his reward, I guess, for the journey he's been on, where
mhm,
he's going to back off and all this stuff. Like, he really is making her uncomfortable throughout the movie. Um, I think it would have been, if you're going to keep the scene, I've always thought in my head, don't have her give him the photos. I thought it would have been fun if he found them.
mhm,
And she just did a cute thing where Cal wasn't on the front anymore. Like, I know she wrote Cal on it with like a heart or whatever. I just think it would have been interesting that he found the photos and then it just implied that maybe she left them for him. Because again, I don't find any issue with it, but if of all those parts of the storyline, her giving them to him, I guess is. But again, I mean, you could also flip the coin and look at it as empowering. Like she took them and she's given them to him with her permission. I guess I don't know. I don't know. I don't. Sure. I'm not gonna die on this hill. But I just think that it's still tackling real things that people that do happen. And I think there's more controversial things that Ryan Gosling says to women in this. Like one of my favorite lines is, "Oh, I'm glad you're hanging out with my son. Maybe you can teach him how to objectify women. He'll love that." Like,
love it. Love it.
It's so yeah. To answer your question, I haven't put too much thought into it, but I'm like, at the end of the day, there's bigger issues in the world. I'm like, again. People get walked in on doing that. She has a crush on an older guy and she gets bad advice from another girl in high school. That's probably happened. And this young kid gets a bunch of nude photos from this older girl. I mean, like, whatever. Right? At the end of the day. Yeah. I mean,
because I feel like when I was doing research for this movie, I kept reading people's reviews, and
I could see people being people are finding things they're getting upset. Like when something happens nowadays, within hours or at least the next morning, there's controversy. Mm-hmm. There's controversy with everything. So I get that 100%. There's going to be someone that doesn't like it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't watch the movie if you don't like it.
Right,
if you don't
exactly.
like it.
I think that's the thing too. Like, unfortunately, these things are happening in the world, whether we want them or not. And I don't know.
Again, it's called Crazy Stupid Love. It's telling a story of different people in different stages of life and their experiences with love. Yep. And again, the 13-year-old boy's journey in this is pretty realistic. He has a crush on a girl and he doesn't really know how to deal with it. And he does some sweet things and also some inappropriate things. And it's things he says to her, and then you have the marriage, and then you have the young, like, I don't know how old Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are in it, but like that type of love and changing who you are and becoming an adult in your career. It's tackling all these different stages, an affair, another guy like Kevin Bacon, she goes on some dates with him. And again, I've experienced a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, it's pretty well done in my books. But again, there's going to be people that disagree. So
yeah, for sure. So real quick, I do want to do a quick rundown of the cast and characters, just so everyone knows who is in this film, if we haven't already mentioned their names. But we do have Steve Carell as Cal Weaver, Ryan Gosling as Jacob Palmer, Julianne Moore as Emily Weaver, Emma Stone as Hannah Weaver, Marissa Tomei as Kate Tafferty, Kevin Bacon as David, what's his name?
Lindhagen.
Yes, David Lindhagen. You will definitely hear this name quite a bit throughout the movie.
So good.
So good. John Carroll Lynch as Bernie Riley. We have Josh Groban, which when he came on the screen, I was like,
it's so
the
good.
hell is that Josh Groban?
I think he's a bigger douche than Ryan Gosling, if you want to ask me.
Me too, guys. If we're looking for, the real enemy in this movie, Josh Groban, Richard, that's who he plays. I think I could give a swift little punch to his face.
There's a reason she leaves him and goes directly to Ryan Gosling. It's a different type of douche, but Josh again. And you look at it too, just the way Ryan Gosling talked to her versus the way he talks. So I don't know how long they've been together, but like sign me up. Like Ryan Gosling's a little rough around the edges, but man, I would, Josh Groban. I mean, unless he's singing, like he's got nothing to offer.
Yeah, get out of here, Richard. Yeah. We have Annalee Tipton as Jessica Riley, Jonah Bobo as Robbie Weaver. We have Joey King as Molly Weaver, Beth Littleford as Claire Riley, and Eliza Lapira as Liz.
I was just thinking too, while I was talking about the comparison of Josh Groban and Ryan Gosling, I believe, I don't remember the exact blocking, but I'm pretty sure Josh Groban throughout his scenes with her, he's a lot of times talking down to her. Like he literally walks up to her. I think she's sitting and he's standing. He's literally talking and he's doing the whole elevator thing and all. Like he's really condescending and really trying to bring her down. And then you literally have Ryan Gosling's scene when he shows up, he unbuttons his suit and sits down. So it's very metaphorical that he's on her level. He's sitting with her and looking at her eye to eye. versus and one meeting with her versus her boyfriend Josh Groban, who's literally the worst and talking down to her and making her feel less than. Again, I just thought of that while I was explaining. Like, again, just crafty stuff where it's like in one moment Ryan Gosling makes an impact, even though he just wants to sleep with her. But I mean,
Oh,
sure. I mean, if you're going to talk to me like this and talk to me like a human being, I'll give you a shot, maybe. I don't know, but I just thought of that. It was just interesting where Josh Groban's scenes are just so cringe.
that I absolutely love that you brought that up. I did not notice that.
Yeah, I
So
just thought about it now. Where I just remember
it's awesome.
he's totally flirting with her, but he's also right away she mentions that she is like becoming a lawyer, whatever, and he just talks about the jargon with her as if she's a lawyer. He talks to her like she's a lawyer, and Josh Groban doesn't talk to her like she's a lawyer. She like again like less than type thing, and like I don't have all the dialogue written down. I'd have to pull it out. But again, just thinking about the two sequences, and then she literally leaves, high fives her friend, and goes to hook up with the guy in the bar that talked to her like a human being and an
Wow.
equal instead
Wow,
of
yeah.
yeah, the power dynamic shift is there. And then again, just the whole sequence, the power shift in that scene. You have Ryan Gosling that's very alpha, and you know he takes his shirt off. He's in good shape. He's superior in many ways, just physically. And then it just shifts where he's vulnerable in the bed. He still has his shirt off, but he's on the bed, and she's on top of him, talking to him. Like again, like literally when they go in the bed, he's on top. He's in control. He's trying to make out with her. She's talking. It just shifts. It's so beautiful, and then he's just letting he opens up, and now he's getting something he didn't even know he wanted, or he did
Mhm.
know, and he was too scared to ask for it. But yeah, I mean, the second he starts talking about his mom and dad, it's just like, yeah, they're not having sex tonight at all. But like, this is going to be very satisfying for him because
Sure.
that's his shift in the movie. He's a totally different person after that.
Yeah, I mean, there's something so intimate about that scene, and unlike that half-star review, like
Yeah,
that's the,
yeah,
there is no sex. I know we've mentioned it, and I love that we keep going back to this scene
yeah,
because it is so well written, and as you also mentioned, the balance between the humor and the heart of this film is truly what makes it stand out
yeah,
because it never goes too far to be overly sappy. It's not overly raunchy. It's not overly too comedic where you're kind of like losing yourself in, the slapstick of things. Yeah, I mean, the more we talk about it, I mean, even just you mentioning the sequences with, Josh Groban's character, and I love stuff like that. And
yeah,
I love that even if you just thought of it now,
yeah.
that's brilliant filmmaking, and
Hmm.
those types of things really stay level because in real life, if you obviously always feel like you're being talked to as if you were a lesser person, to
Hmm.
meet someone who speaks to you as an equal on the same
Yeah.
level as you,
Hmm.
that's so important, and that's the crazy stupid love shit that we're looking for in life,
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and again, it doesn't matter where these things start from. Again, like we've said, he in that moment is his intention is to take her home and hook up with her.
Hmm.
But what I'm going to imagine end up being a wonderful love story that a lot of people meet on Tinder nowadays. People meet at
Hmm.
bars. People meet after a hookup, after a one night stand. Like it doesn't matter where. I mean, it could be the most lovely. You meet the seas part. You're in love. Oh my god, there's relationships where you save yourself until marriage. Like all these different types of crazy, stupid love work. This is just how their love story started. Where it's like, but again, there are great qualities with Jacob in it. Like again, you can look at it and say like he's obviously got a lot of money. He is good to look at. He obviously takes care of himself. Based on his words, he's a tomcat in the sack. So these are all good things. And then the stuff that he needed to work on, literally Emma Stone's going to help him, and he wants to change for her, not drastically, just a few little things. And again, objectifying women, and just taking all this amazing stuff he's experienced and putting it into one serious relationship, and being in touch with his personal feelings and about how he looks at the world and stuff. And I'm sure she's going to help him with a lot of stuff. So it's lovely, and I'm sure she's going to change a little bit too for him. Again, we don't get too much of her because she's not as much of a prominent character, but that's what it is. And like same thing with Steve Carell. Like you don't think their marriage, if they end up back together, is going to boom because of the stuff he learned from Ryan Gosling. Like not
No.
all of it, but some of it. Do you not think Steve Carell is going to be better in bed? I mean, probably. And
Right.
confidence, he's going to take her out more. He's going to be probably, I mean, he always was a good dad. I think that really, I mean, he was always there for his kids, but just in their relationship, I think it's going to benefit. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, the strengths from each of these characters, Jacob and Cal, are just going to strengthen each other. And then
Hmm.
again, like the whole Miyagi reference in it is fantastic. And you have a joke where he's like, wait, you want me to fight someone? Like, and
Yeah.
it's funny, but it's again, he's teaching him. And then that's kind of a metaphor on their relationship because Ryan Gosling thinks he's teaching Steve
Hmm.
Carell how to hook up with women. But at the end of the day, he got Miyagi too because Cal is teaching him how to be a better man.
Yeah.
And it's just funny that he doesn't even know he's teaching him for his own daughter. So it's just
Yep.
that stuff that it's just brilliant. And it'd be funny for a few years at the dinner table, looking back at your son-in-law and thinking, "Oh, I used to be his wingman and all the things
Oh,
he
really?
said." I mean, again, it'd be a little. I don't know what was talked about, but I mean, at the end of the day, that relationship would be amazing. I mean, I'm sure they're best buddies and all that. But yeah, it's just it's a fun, crafty movie, and it's just shining a light on different types of relationships, how they start, how they end, how they get through turbulence.
Hmm.
And again, I'm on the side that I think they get back together and they live happily ever after. But even if they don't, it doesn't matter. Steve Carell will probably end up meeting someone else and be a real, maybe get married, and she'll meet someone, probably not David Lindhagen, but regardless, all the characters are at a better spot at the end of the movie.
Yes, 100%. I hate when movies like really, I mentioned putting a bow on an ending. I hate when they do that. So I do like that they left the movie the way that they did, and you can kind of come up with your own ways. So I want to talk about there's two quote unquote twists in the film.
Yeah,
So the first one being Steve Carell's first hookup, being guided by Ryan Gosling's character is with Marissa Tomei's character,
yeah,
and it's a kind of an awkward, really like rambunctious little quick hookup.
yeah.
She stays overnight, she pieces out, think we're not going to see her again, and it just so happens that she ends up being a teacher of the kids in school. So they go to what was like an open house, essentially to
No, I think they're there to talk about his scene or what he did in class with the A
what did
on
they
his
class?
chest.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yep, correct. So yeah, they go to talk to the teacher, and it happens to be Marissa Tomei, and I literally was like, oh shit, and then. At first, you're like, she's not going to mention it. Obviously, he
Yeah.
didn't really want to mention it. You thought maybe she was going to go on with it, but kind of like fuck around with him a little bit and kind of tease, like, maybe I'm going to out you. But no, they, she let it out. She let it all be known there. So I thought that was pretty good. I didn't see it coming and it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like it was something that was just kind of thrown in there
Hmm.
for whatever, a quick laugh or some kind of awkwardness. It worked. It worked with how the story was flowing, and
Yeah.
I was genuinely caught off guard. I was like, "Oh shit!" I didn't see it coming. Thought she was just gonna be a one-off character, a one-off scene type of
Yeah.
person. So,
They do a nice thing in it too where he has this line where he says that you're the perfect combination of cute and sexy, whatever that
mhm.
is. And what I like about it is that you have the typical scene where Julianne Moore finds out that he used this on this girl and she's upset about it, obviously. But if you
Mhm.
actually go back to the scene when Steve Carell says it, he doesn't flat out use the line as a hookup line to get her into bed. He says it about his wife.
Mhm.
And when you look at back and you say, yeah, he did say it, and Marissa Tomei took it the way she did, and that was part of the reason why she probably went home with him. But it was just an honest kind of mistake too, because I don't remember the way Steve Carell says it. But he's like, I used to, I'm supposed to tell you this, but I used to say it to my wife, kind of like that, where it's like he doesn't even believe in saying it,
Mhm.
yet it ends up, stabbing him in the back, obviously, and Julianne
Sure.
Moore is upset because that's the line he said to her. But they just do it in a way where it's like you toe the line, where it's like he didn't go as a sleazy guy and use the line to pick her up. He just
Yeah.
kind of did it where he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm supposed to say this, but oh my god, I said that to my wife. So I kind of like that. And then you have the scene where I talked about before, where she finds out that he slept with 9 girls, and she's like, you showed me.
Mhm.
And you have this moment where like she had the affair, she had the inciting incident, if you will, where she's the one who did it first while they were still together. And then Steve Carell after that had sex with 9 girls. So it's like, which one's worse? I mean, at the
Right.
end of the day, Julianne Moore is the one who quote unquote cheated, but 9 girls in what, a few weeks or a month or two, whatever it was, is pretty bad. Especially the fact that they probably hadn't been having sex. But it's just one of those things where it's like, again, there's no shame. Where
Yeah.
it's like Julianne Moore's upset, but she's not. You know, she even says like, "You showed me." Like, I can't say anything because I had an affair too. But it's like she's hurt, and Steve Carell was hurt when he found out. You have these two characters that process it differently,
Mhm.
but that's where it's like, yeah, I think at the end of the day, there is some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, but it's like the darkest moment for these guys. It literally starts raining, and I think Steve Carell's his line's like, "What a cliche,"
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, it's just like it's well done. Where it's like you have these stereotypical cheesy moments that don't feel as cheesy because they're executed in a crafty way.
Mhm. Couldn't agree more. I think that's what makes it so well done is that, sometimes you watch these romantic comedies and the cheese level's off the charts and you're just
Yeah.
you don't really buy it. And I think this film is very well grounded and
Mm-hmm.
definitely a lot more realistic than a lot of, rom-coms you get to watch. We also get another twist thrown at us, and
Yes.
this twist, I don't know if I just, I like to think that I know movies pretty well,
Yeah.
kind of catch on the formulas and stuff, and never, not once did I even think that it was going to head the way that it did. And, we've alluded to it so far in our conversations, but towards the end of the film, we find out Ryan Gosling's character is kind of falling in love with someone, and uh, Steve Carell's character Cal ends up finding out who that person is, and it's his other daughter, which is actually Emma Stone. And when she shows up, when they show up together, I'm not even kidding you. I think I let out an audible, "What? Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Like,
It's so
it's
good.
so crazy. And again, just like the Marissa Tomei thing, it works. It didn't feel like a cheap cop out. It didn't feel like
Yeah.
the writing was like, we're gonna throw something crazy in here. How about we connect them? And rewatching the film, Emma Stone's character is kind of in the background at some points, but she never crosses any of their
Yeah.
paths for it to be like, hey, there's my daughter or anything like that.
Mhm.
So I think it was great, right? I think that's great writing, and I think with the chemistry of the cast, it worked out. It was pulled off perfectly. So, I mean, twist wise, that's up there with like The Sixth Sense when I was, fucking 11 years old seeing The Sixth Sense, and I'm like, whoa, wait, he's been dead the whole time.
The Sixth
Spoiler
Sense,
alert.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Sixth Sense is fun to watch all the scenes when you rewatch it, knowing the twist.
Yeah.
Where it's a little awkward at times, but it's
Hmm.
just passable.
Yep.
This is good because they just a couple times throughout the movie they sprinkle the whole Nana thing,
Yeah.
where it's you know that she's mentioned. Like Steve Carell said it to himself at one time. I think they talk about Nana again at another point, and then
Mhm.
in just a quick throwaway line, what's Nana? Who's Nana? Oh, I couldn't say Hannah when I was younger. I used to say Nana, and that's it. That's all you
Yep.
need. They explain it in less than 5 seconds, and
Yep.
it's like then you rewatch it and you hear them mention Nana. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, and then you
So
think
well done.
about yeah, but then you think about it's like, okay, well they have a babysitter. Why do they have a Nana as well? And then but then again, I'm not gonna go through this
Sure.
with a toothpick, but it's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's just good enough where it's like it would have sucked if nothing was mentioned. It probably still would have worked, but
Yeah.
at least they have little bit of sprinkles throughout saying
Sure.
that they have mentioned their other daughter.
Hmm.
And if you do the math, you know that they had a kid in high school when they were 17, and
Hmm.
you know that once you do the math in your head, that um it doesn't line up with the age of the current kids that we know they have. So
Yeah.
it's again bulletproof, maybe not, but it's just good enough that you don't think about it twice.
Yeah. For sure. You mentioned earlier that Steve Carell did not like the title of the film.
Yeah.
So I did read the same thing. I was reading that he doesn't think doesn't catch anyone's attention and
Yeah.
it's kind of like thrown together. And the screenplay for this movie was featured in the 2010 Blacklist in Hollywood. Uh,
Oh.
so it was considered the most liked unmade script of that entire year.
Hmm.
They couldn't find like a proper marketing for it. Anyone who would be interested in like playing these types of characters. It was a romantic comedy, but it had so many storylines going on. So, it just kind of like sat there. But everyone was like, "This is a great script, but like, what can we do with it?"
Yeah.
And I found that to be very true. And then when they were actually making the movie, they were referring to it as the untitled marital crisis comedy. So it didn't have a name, and then it didn't have a name until it was actually getting ready to be promoted when they finally just settled on Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty interesting. Some of the theaters even got it under the code name First Date because they weren't 100% sure what they were going to market it as, and they already
Oh,
sent
okay.
the reels out to cinemas. So I thought that was kind of cool too. Like they went down to the wire with a
Well,
title for that.
I can understand it being hard to market, but
Hmm.
again, when you look at star power, like you have, because when this would have been promoted, I don't know if it would have been at the same time as people knowing that Steve Carell was leaving The Office, but Steve Carell was, I mean, he was hugely popular at that point. Like between 40-Year-Old Virgin and all the other movies he did, like he was a bona fide movie star at that point.
Hmm.
And then Ryan Gosling, who had some big movies and then kind of went away, like I said, and then came back. Like I don't know if this was before or after Drive, but Blue Valentine was a pretty big hit for a low budget movie. Like you have movie stars in this. Julianne Moore has been popular since the 90s.
Hmm.
Like I said, Emma Stone was either coming off of Easy A or, again, I don't know. I think that might have been 2010, but you have actors and actresses that are well known. Throw Kevin Bacon in there because Kevin Bacon's in everything. And then Marissa Tomei, you got an Oscar-winning actress in it, and she's a well-known actress as well. So you can sell this movie on the movie star, power alone. And then I'm hoping the early buzz was good, and because I don't remember this time, like I can now in the like last 5 years, I know almost all the buzz that's around every movie before it comes out because of
Sure.
social media and shit.
Yeah.
Then I have no idea what the early reactions were. I have no idea. Yeah, and I don't think Ryan Gosling was probably as big then as he is now,
Sure.
but he still was a name at that point.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I have no idea. But again, early reactions, if the first few wave of people didn't like it, some negative reviews, rom com, I could see it not doing well. What did you say the box office was for this again?
So the box office domestically was $84.4 million, and the worldwide ended up being 145.
Oh wow, so it was very yeah, I mean, but again, I just pulled it up now. $50 million budget for the like for a rom com. That like you won't get that now.
No.
But yeah, $50 million. Yeah, like that's.
Yeah.
But again, they almost tripled their money at the worldwide box office. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they charged for marketing, but yeah, I'm glad it was a success, and I'm glad more and more people like it's on Netflix right now. I think it's
Mhm.
on Crave. I think a lot of people are getting introduced to it and reintroduced to it, and
Agreed.
it's just a lot of fun. And the demographic, like young people, old people, you have the Office fans. You probably
Mhm.
got a lot of Notebook. Like that's the fun part of marketing movies, where you think about what audience you're trying to bring in, and you look at stuff like Wicked just came out, and to me, I love the casting of Ariana Grande because you got your Wicked fan base. They're coming to see this movie no matter what. But
Yeah.
then you're going to bring in all of Ariana Grande's fans that have been watching her since she was a kid. And like you look at a movie like this where it's okay, so we're going to get a lot of The Office fans because Steve Carell's God. And
Sure.
then you're going to have Notebook fans and Ryan Gosling fans, Julianne Moore fans. Then you're going to have Emma Stone fans. Like Easy A was big, Superbad was big, and it's just fun to see how you craft these things together. And again, if there's a big filmmaker attached, whatever it might be, but like I don't know why this movie wouldn't, the numbers line up pretty well for a rom com. It might have overachieved for a rom com, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's, and again, like I said, they got lucky with the chemistry because everyone's great in it together. And Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling went and did The Big Short after this too,
Mhm.
which was great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think, mentioning that the script kind of was hard to find its footing. I think throwing them spending extra money to put towards the film to get some of these big names
Yeah.
was the draw. And I think that was kind of their way of being like, this is an amazing script. It would have worked with people you didn't know, but
Mhm.
we're gonna blow your socks off with having all of these names in here
Yes,
to give you the
absolutely.
story and the star power. So
This would be an example of a movie where even though I do praise the script, I
mhm.
think that it needed movie stars for
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
You and again, but also I say movie stars, they're all great. Like they're all like again, like two of them have won Oscars. Steve Carell's been nominated. Like they're and Ryan Gosling's been nominated. They're Emma Stone and Marissa Tomei have won. Julianne Moore, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling have all been nominated. Like
Mhm.
they're all big movie stars, but they're also really good actors and
Yeah,
actresses as well. So again, I think I put this up as one of the best casted movies ever. There's a lot of really good casted movies. This is one of them. Like it's just every character fits their role perfectly,
yep.
or every actor and actress fits the role of the character. Whatever I'm saying,
No, yeah, no,
it
yeah.
all fits perfectly.
It all fits perfectly.
Yeah.
It all aligns. It all came together at the right time.
Yes.
I usually do play. So for season two, I've been doing the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, and
Oh,
I was like, well, that doesn't really work for this movie because all of these people are connected to Kevin Bacon.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, just even randomly having Kevin Bacon in here, and even Marissa Tomei's part, as small as it is, and as small as his part is, they're memorable. Like,
They make an impact.
yeah, I think Marissa Tomei, she's so goofy in this movie. I don't know. She definitely made me laugh out loud. She
hmm
was she's she was on the prowl, and she definitely
Yeah.
let it all out. And
Yeah.
when she was like revealing that they had sex in the classroom scene,
Yeah.
she definitely made me laugh out loud. So
Yeah. No,
kudos
she
to
was
her.
good. Yeah.
And then Kevin Bacon being considered like the bad guy because he's the one who broke up the marriage, and them throwing his name around. His name is actually said 19 times in the film, which is hilarious.
And he's not even that bad of a guy. Like
No,
he's not really
no,
doing anything. Like again, home wrecker for sure. But
yeah.
like at the end of the day, like it was a marriage that was on the rocks. And like even Steve or Ryan Gosling says, like he's like this David Lindhagen's making the moves on your wife right now. He's opening the
Yep.
car door for her, and
Mhm.
like they go on a pleasant date. And it's fine. Again, I don't think they would have ever ended up together, but still, like he's not like no one's bad in this. They're
Mhm.
just flawed characters, all of
Yep.
them. Like they're just growing, and that's what makes them interesting. They're not perfect. They make mistakes and they learn.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I think knowing that this is coming from he's the actual creator of This Is Us, correct? Like
He's the
that was his,
showrunner. Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
awesome. I could definitely see,
Oh yeah.
having, I could definitely see a lot of parallels in
Yeah.
writing and that balance. There was humor in This Is Us. I think definitely has some good stuff to his name. So
hmm
I definitely appreciate stuff like it. Dan Fogelman, correct? That's
Yes,
his
that's
name. Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
cool. Yeah, well, kudos to Dan Fogelman for creating some pretty awesome stuff here. So I have a question. Do you think who is your favorite character? If you could only pick one character from this film, who would it be?
As much as I love Steve Carell, I like very lovable, and I love the journey he goes on. I have to pick Jacob.
Hmm.
Just because of his. I love movies where there's a scene where the character changes or there's a
Yep.
light that goes up, like an epiphany, and the entire Dirty Dancing leading to in the bed, that whole sequence is fantastic. And then I love that he stands his ground at the end and he says like. And he admits and opens up like the whole second half of the movie after that scene is just him being honest and opening up and being vulnerable and stuff like that. So I just love the journey he goes on. Cause again, I think he's a really nice guy. Even at the beginning, he just needs to shave off the rough edges of
Hmm.
whatever. And again, in one scene that you get him talking about his parents, you get kind of the way he became. He saw the way his dad was, similar to Steve Carell. He probably rebelled and probably went the opposite direction. He's like, you know what? My dad gave up on my mom. I'm going to be super charismatic and I'm going to be best with the ladies and I'm going to say all the right things and I'm going to be a success. I'm going to take all and you kind of get where, but again, he also admits his dad was sweet,
Hmm.
almost too sweet, and couldn't handle his mom and all this stuff. So he's sweet at heart, and you see little cute little moments with him and Emma Stone, and then at the end with their little sister. So there's this good guy at heart who's just a tomcat in the sack, as he says. And he's just taking advantage of that, and he's using his charisma and his confidence to take some women home. And it takes one lovely woman to change him in all the right ways. And I just love just explaining that story is amazing. I would love more of it, obviously, but I think it works as the supporting story in this movie. The main story is obviously Steve Carell, but again, he's funny, he's charming, um again, if I can talk about someone this long, they did a good job in the movie, specifically the fact that he's not even the main character. So
Oh yeah, yeah,
that'd be my
awesome,
pick.
awesome. Yeah, no, it's a great pick. Couldn't agree with you more. I think I like to see, those characters come to terms, with who they are, and I think his character arc is great in this film. So I do agree with you. So then I will definitely pick a different character then. I also really like Emily Weaver's journey, played by Julianne Moore.
Yep.
In the beginning, she's never, as you mentioned, she's never necessarily painted as a bad person. She's never told like,
She
unfortunately,
doesn't
we're
get
not
slut shamed or
exactly. I was just,
anything. Yeah.
yep, yep. I was gonna say we're not throwing around, slut,
Yeah.
whore, things
Yeah.
like that. It's a level of, even Steve Carell's character in a weird way kind of gets it. He didn't want his wife to cheat on him by any
Yeah.
means, but through realization conversations with Ryan Gosling's character, he's kind of like, okay, maybe I did kind of pull away a little bit. And
Yeah.
again, we don't want anyone cheating on anybody.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore made a mistake and she's paying for it. I think throughout the film, she does kind of come to that realization like it wasn't a mistake. There was something broken and we didn't take the time or opportunity to fix it or at least talk about it.
Mhm.
And the scene where Steve Carell is in the backyard watching
Oh, I
she
forgot about that scene. It's
yeah,
so good. Yeah.
so good. Yeah, he's in their backyard watching her and the kids, kind of, doing the family thing. And she steps into the other room, and as he's watching her, and she picks up the phone, and she gives him a call, and she asks him to kind of walk through the fact that the water heater's not working, where we as an audience and he himself can see that she's not actually near the water heater. She just wanted to hear his voice. She wanted to kind of remember what it was to be with this man
Yeah.
and it was a comfort level for her, and it was kind of like a realization, like this is why did I give this away? I need this back, and I think that was kind of his realization, like maybe we can make this work again. I think that was a big moment. We don't really know exactly fully where they end up in the end, but we can all agree that they're definitely most likely going to give that another shot because that scene alone right there pulls in so many aspects and emotions that you kind of you feel for them and
Hmm.
now you're rooting for them.
Yeah.
So
And there's a great line too right before the Marissa Tomei twist where when they're sitting there, he's like, I'm mad at you, but I'm mad at me too.
mhm.
And it's just like that is the whole movie. That's
It's the whole
literally
movie.
and that's growth. And you
Yep.
could probably tell from the very beginning once he finds out like he's upset that she cheated on him. But she doesn't even say that first. She says that she wants a divorce. She doesn't tell him until in the car that she had an affair.
Yeah.
And you can just his whole life's just crumbling down. He jumps out of the car and all that stuff. And it just takes him a while to process it. But then I mean, through talking with Ryan Gosling, he probably self reflects and looks back and back and back on all the stuff and all the mistakes he's made. And
Mm.
that just makes him an even better character. Where, like, again, even in a situation where he was the victim, he was the one that was cheated on, he's
Yeah.
able to look at his own flaws and then to say that line, I'm mad at you, as you should be, but I'm also mad at me, as you should be. And it's
Mhm.
like, that's why they're probably going to make it because you don't have him shaming her, him just saying, I'm the victim, you made the mistake, you get out. Like, he's the one who says, I'll leave. And he just, like, again, it's a very mature a way to
Mhm.
handle it. And then again, you have all the fun stuff that happens throughout and all the nice dramatic stuff of these people just becoming better versions of themselves.
Yep. Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great pick. Great pick.
Really is. And I really appreciate you introducing me to this movie and us being able to kind of walk through it and break down certain scenes and character emotions and really picking apart different things that really make this movie stand out. And I really do like this movie. And I think even talking about it a little bit more, I'm going to go back to the scene where you talked about Josh Groban and Ryan Gosling.
I might be wrong about that. I didn't do any research on that. I just, from what I remember, she's sitting down. He walks up. I think he kind of leans over and he's talking to her, and maybe he sits down eventually. Again, I could be completely wrong, but still, what I said still stands up. Just the way he's talking to her, and the way Ryan Gosling talks to her, it's just polar opposite. And like that kind of shit is super important with women. And I totally, again, it's a very understandable decision that she makes in that situation. Where again, I don't know how long they've been together, but just walks out on him, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, for the whole build up to be like, yeah, he's gonna propose to me, and then he literally wants you to join his, like, he wants you to work for him. Yeah. Fuck out of here with that. Come on, leave that loser. Let him keep singing. Josh Groban, come on, man.
No way you raised me up.
No way you raised me up. Shit. So do you have any last thoughts on the movie that you want to share with everyone? Why should they run to Netflix or wherever it's streaming or go to buy? Like, kind of sell them. What should they do what should they know about this movie to watch it?
Besides the fact that we spoiled the shit out of it.
Absolutely, guys. You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's a feel-good movie. It is an easy watch. It's not super complicated or super boring I mean, there's a lot of different variety out there nowadays specifically, but with this one, it's just, it makes you feel good, gives you some good laughs, tells a really good story. There's some twists and turns, obviously. For any Ryan Gosling fans, you get to look at Ryan Gosling for quite a bit, which is great. And again, Steve Carell fans, if you haven't seen this, I mean, you'll love it. Again, it's Michael Scott 2.0 for the most part. Yep. It's, again, just a well-crafted movie. Again, it's simple. Like it's well written. I don't want to say simple as as a negative. It's a simply executed story about a couple people and how the stories intertwine. And it gets a really good message across in under 2 hours, which is great. Because so many movies nowadays are 2.5, 3 hours. It's perfect date night movie. If you are struggling as a couple, he wants to watch this and she wants to watch this, it's a perfect balance. Perfect balance of laughter and maybe some tears. I don't know if it's not super sappy, but you might cry, who knows? It's just, again, 70 on Rotten Tomatoes, a good solid 75 or whatever you said.
Yeah, I think it's 78 and 79. I think audience and critics are like right.
Can't go wrong. When the audience and the critics line up like that, you're usually in pretty good hands. So that'd be my recommendation. A great cast, great script, well done, well shot. I guess. I mean, it's not like a cinematography darling, but yeah, it's just a well-made movie from 2011. Yeah.
Hell yeah, guys. You heard it here first. Adam Galloway is telling you to go check out Crazy Stupid Love. I listened to him, and as I mentioned, I definitely really liked it a lot. At the beginning, I think I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think I definitely bump it up to like an 8.5.
All right, we're going.
Possibly teetering on the 9. And I think if you're correct about that scene, about the standing up and sitting down, we're definitely 9 out of 10 territory.
Now I'm really nervous. I should have pulled it up on Netflix or something while we were.
Regardless, those little things to me, the fact that you even if it's half true, the idea that you even picked some of that out of there with even just the Josh Groban part, that's fantastic writing, directing, acting, all that fun stuff. So anything else you want to say, Adam?
No, I'm all maxed out. I gave everything I got on this movie. My heart is full.
Yeah, you gave a lot, and I really appreciate it. This film obviously means a lot to you, and you've definitely watched it more than enough, and definitely, and that's a great thing. No, I say that with love. There's movies I watch all the time, and I definitely could see this kind of falling into my rotation, and I feel like I will definitely be recommending this movie to some people as well. I got some, my go-to guests that are on my show all the time, Lauren and Brittany. I know Brittany's a big fan of this movie. When she heard that we were doing this, she was like, "You haven't seen that yet?" She was proud of me. And Lauren, of course, I'm always introducing her to like scary shit or super artsy, crazy things where she's like, "What the fuck did I just watch, Dave? Can we do a rom-com?" So I feel like she's gonna be like, "What the hell? You do it with this guy? Come on, man." So
I'm sweet. I'm from Canada.
He's from Canada, guys. Come on, I gotta do these rom-coms, man. Yeah. Well, hey, Adam, I really appreciate you doing this with me today. I think we had a great conversation. And again, thanks for kind of switching up the formula a little bit, giving me a movie I've never seen before, giving me some insight to, what this movie means to you, things that you took away from it. I really enjoyed listening to what you had to say. So thank you so much for that. And hopefully I did well by you to tell you a little bit of things that I loved about it.
You did great.
Some of the things I learned along the way. So Adam Galloway, host of Raised on Film podcast, and check him out, guys. I mean, you've been listening to me, the Reaction Shot podcast. Now you got to check him out. Add us both into your rotation. Listen to us back to back. Repeat this episode over and over again. It was a great conversation, so why not listen to it 2 or 3 times, right?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks, guys. Adam, thanks for joining the show today. All my listeners, thanks for listening, and we will definitely check you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Dave.
Thank you.
Bye.